Today I'm going to show you guys my recommended leveling build for the Druid in Season 3. So first off, I made an infographic for you guys, so you can kind of see how you might choose the direction you go with your build as you're leveling. As you can see here, actually let's see, over there, level 1 Druid, it goes out and there's the lines going to all the different skills, and those are the main skills that you're going to want to choose as you're leveling a Druid in Season 3. Now, today's build, we're going to focus on Pulverize, because this is the #1 recommended build for leveling on Druid. But in case Pulverize isn't your thing, or you happen to get other stuff that points you in a different direction, I'm going to put this infographic in my Discord in the resources channel so you guys can have it. Now, there's always somebody that says, hey, why don't you have any gameplay for these speculative builds? And I'm like, because I haven't done it yet. But for this one, I kind of found some gameplay from the beginning of Season 1 where I was level 80 trying to do a tier 50 nightmare dungeon, and I was clearly too weak for where I was, and it was terrible gameplay to show you. But for those people, I'm going to tack that on to the end of the video so you can have a general idea of what Pulverize looks like in a similar-ish build. But for that one, I think I was actually using Changeling's Debt, so it's a little bit different, but you get the idea. So if you're going Pulverize, we're most likely assuming that you got the Shockwave aspect. So what I'm recommending for you guys is the Quickshift Pulverize build, but I modified it for leveling specifically, so there's no uniques in it, and you won't have to worry about any of that. And when you do get to the end game, I'm going to have a separate build for you guys so you can change over to that. So for this build, we're going to be basic attacking with Storm Strike. This gives you damage reduction, and it also applies vulnerable to enemies. It's also going to build your spirit so you can spam your Pulverize. Pulverize is going to be your #1 source of damage, although early in the game, Poison Creeper is also going to be a really good source of damage. But you're going to want to use your Pulverize as much as possible, and because we're using Quick Shift and Resonance, you're going to want to go back and forth between your Storm Strike and your Pulverize. That's going to keep your spirit up, but it's also going to cause you to do more damage with your Pulverize. We've got Bloodhowl. This is a spirit generator. It's going to be healing us and applying the damage reduction from our Vigilance passive. Poison Creeper, like I said, is good damage early on, but this also gives us our poison utility, and it can be used as a lockdown to root enemies. Next up, we've got Trample. This is going to be a source of mobility. It can also be a source of unstoppable, and it's pretty good damage. In addition to that, we can actually get 40 spirit every time we use this, so you want to use this pretty much off cooldown. And I actually herpaderped and forgot to change this. We're actually going with Cataclysm for the early game. Once we get to the end game, Petrify can be a better option because it's going to help you scale your damage. But early on, Cataclysm on its own is actually a really good source of damage, and they just buffed it for Season 3. Now, when you're going through and choosing your skills as you level, I actually took the time to go through and put it in the exact order that you want to have it. So feel free to look at the written guide here and go through and do the exact order. For the spirit boons on this build, we're going to go with Wariness, Scythe Talons, Avian Wrath, Energize, and Obsidian Slam. I typically go with Iron Feather, but they not only changed Avian Wrath to be multiplicative critical strike damage, but when you're leveling, you kind of just want as much damage as you can get. You're not really worrying about surviving as much. For our aspects, the main thing we're looking for is Shockwave aspect. This is going to make the build pop off, but there's a lot of other key parts of the build that are useful as well. For example, if you get Earthsign Horror, this is going to change your Pulverize to an Earth skill, and that's going to allow us to use our Quicksand and our Umbral to get Spirit back. It's also going to allow us to benefit from the extra passives in the skill tree. So make sure any Earth passives in the skill tree you don't put in until after you've gotten Earthsign Horror. A lot of these are just nice to have, so don't worry too much if you don't have them. For example, Disobedience is just extra armor, Aspect of Might is just extra damage reduction, Ballistic is just extra damage, Retaliation is extra damage, Natural Balance is extra damage, so don't worry too much. Most of those are just nice to haves. The only thing that's really important is that Shockwave. For our gems, we're doing Ruby on our weapon and our armor. And for our jewelry, we're going to be doing diamonds. If you happen to have random resistances on your gear that allows you to hit your caps without using diamonds, feel free to put in an individual resistance here, and that way you can use more armor on your accessories. But diamond is just a kind of nice, easy thing to put there. Now for the Seneschal construct, keep in mind that I haven't actually gotten to try these, but based off of what I've read, this is my current suggested setup. So we've got Flash of Adrenaline. This is going to increase our damage. We've got Safeguard. This gives us damage resistance. And then we've also got Duration Support and Tactical Support to reduce the cooldown and extend the duration so that we have these buffs longer. For our other skill, we're going with Lightning Bolt, and with Lightning Bolt, we're getting Multi-Shot, Piercing, and Arcing. This should just be a crazy mess of damage on the screen, and honestly, I'm putting it here mostly because I want to see it. I'm not sure how relevant these will be for leveling because I don't know the progression rate, but we'll see how that goes. I've got the basic skill rotations listed down here, but it's pretty simple to use. Like I said before, you're going to be alternating back and forth between your basic and your core skill, and the rest of the stuff is mostly just utility or extra damage. Now for the skill tree, don't forget that you've got the order of skills over here. If you don't see it, you can click on this little tab. But we're going to be starting with Storm Strike, and we're going to Fierce Storm Strike. We're going to be grabbing our Pulverize up to Primal Pulverize. Then we're going to be grabbing our Blood Howl up to Innate Blood Howl. Then we'll be grabbing our Poison Creeper down to our Ferocious Poison Creeper. Next up, we're grabbing Trample down to Savage Trample. Then our Ultimate, Cataclysm, over to Supreme Cataclysm. Then we're going to want to pick up our Ursine Strength, and then you'll go back based off of the order in here, and you'll put in passives. There's a couple points in there where you'll have to put some passives before you actually jump to get to like the ultimate, for example. But it's not too complicated, and there's an entire list here for you guys. Now for the Paragon board, I'm suggesting that you guys use this build up to level 60, and then you change to my endgame version of the build. I haven't put out the Season 3 endgame version yet, but it will be there. But for the Paragons, I went ahead and just gave you a nice strong start with a little bit of extra points than the 10 levels that I suggest going past 50. So I'm planning on trying to hit some of these starter builds over the next couple of days to make sure you guys have them. But if I don't get around to them, this list will be in the Discord, like I said, but I'll also have the written guides for them, even if I don't get around to making the video. So don't worry about it if you don't see it. Just make sure you check in the Discord and the builds channel. Thanks for watching the video, guys. If you have any questions, leave them below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Catch you later. I meant it when I said I'll catch you later.